Pitching tonight in MLB DFS is not too bad. We've got some good options between Yu Darvish, Max Scherzer. I like Tyler Mahle. I think that Taijuan Walker's in play as well. You could talk me into Alek Manoah. So 5 potentially good options there. The problem we're going to run into for MLB DFS today is stacking, because there are 2 teams I really want to stack, and both of them are involved with some potentially really gross weather. So let's dive on in and get you set for tonight's slate of MLB DFS. This is the FanDuel Live Q&A right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter channels. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to take your questions for the next half hour here. And no matter where you are watching, you can get those questions in. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, you can get some questions in via that. So feel free to put them in now. We'll take them live here on the air. It is just me for today. Aaron is off doing a Bleacher Report stream, so just MLB DFS for today. Same for tomorrow as well, with just MLB DFS. So get those questions in for the next half hour. Let's start things off over on Facebook by talking to DJ, Taijuan Walker, Tyler Mahle, Zach Eflin, Tarek Skubal, or JT Brubaker. To me, the top guy there is Tyler Mahle. I think you can make a very strong case for going Taijuan Walker over Mahle, because Walker is facing the Pirates. I would note before we get too far into this that Walker is in one of the weather games for today. You see the Mets and the Pirates here. It's I believe that's part of the tropical storm in that game up in New York. So we're dealing with some serious weather there. If you look at the preset probabilities over at Dark Sky Weather, you see that it's possible that this doesn't impact the game too much. The cursor here is over 7 o'clock. It's possible they avoid the rain. Kevin Roth at Roto Grinders thought this game was in a pretty serious risk of being rained out. So I wouldn't make firm plans around the Mets unless you have the ability to change things out later on. So before we get too far into Walker, that's a caveat. If we do get the green light, I think you can make a very strong case for him. Facing the Pirates, obviously not a great offense versus righties. They are at an 85 WRC plus, a low strikeout team, though. And that's the reason why I prefer Mahle over Walker, is due to upside. I think that I can go Yu Darvish or Max Scherzer for cash games. So for these 2 guys, I'm focusing just on upside. And I think that Mahle's upside is better. This is over his past 7 starts with less movement on his four-seam fastball. His skill interactive ERA is 3.03 with a 34% strikeout rate. Good batted ball data. Facing the Brewers, who are a high strikeout team, definitely better now than they were before, but still a high strikeout team. And we saw this same matchup back in June, and Mahle was facing the Brewers in Milwaukee. He had 12 strikeouts over 6 innings. So the upside is big. That's why I prefer Mahle over Walker. But again, if you love Taijuan Walker, you think that Mahle is not going to measure up as well, totally fine. If they're in the same tier, you can make a strong case for Walker if we get the all clear on the weather. But to me, it is Mahle over Walker for today. Let's talk to Mateo over on YouTube. Terrible weather in New York. If this weather is happening in Baltimore, I'm not touching those games. Which 2 other stacks do you like? So let's go through the weather here first. We talked about the New York weather briefly. This is the weather in Baltimore via Kevin Roth at Roto Grinders. He's talking about how there's a possibility this game is able to avoid the rain. If we go over to Dark Sky Weather and check out what that is saying for this game, it does look like there is a possibility that they're able to play here. They are projected to get 0.31 inches of rain for tonight, light rain to start, and then heavier rain later on. So I'm not going to write off the Blue Jays from a stacking perspective right now. I think there is a decent chance that once we get the 5:30 p.m. update from Kevin, that we're actually okay to go here. But obviously that's not a given right now. We do want to have alternatives, like Mateo mentioned. So let's go through some alternatives to see where we want to stack outside of not just the Orioles, or not outside of the Blue Jays, but also outside of the Mets, because the Mets would be number 3 for me behind the Blue Jays. Number 2 for today, from a stacking perspective, was the Mets, I guess. But either way, I do think Cleveland works. They're facing Danny Duffy. Duffy hasn't looked great since he came off the injured list. A 41% hard hit rate allowed, a 41% fly ball rate as well. Not a lot of strikeouts and a lot of walks. Cleveland really bad against lefties, but they've gotten some guys back recently who've helped. Franmil Reyes obviously helps. Harold Ramirez has not been there all year, so I think that he is definitely someone I would be willing to use. The big one to me is the Tigers. They are facing off with Happ. Happ is someone who's been pretty rough all year long, but especially recently, a lot of issues with hard contact. 46% hard hit rate allowed and a 44% fly ball rate. I see Clint on YouTube just asked about Detroit. Good timing, Clint. Yes, I think that they are. If we cross off the Mets and the Blue Jays, I would say the Tigers then become the top stack for today against J-Happ. And I think actually the Tigers are number 2, even if we include the Mets. So it's the Blue Jays 1, Tigers 2, Mets 3, and then Cleveland's probably 4 for me right now. So Mateo, if you want 2 alternatives, I would say Cleveland and Detroit are going to be your top 2 options. Aaron on Facebook is asking any love for the Tigers bats. Happ is bad. Agreed. So that's why I think Detroit is going to be, if we take off the 2 weather games, Detroit will wind up being the number 1 option for today. If you recall earlier this year, the Tigers were just hideous to start against lefties, but they're a different offense right now. It's partly because Jonathan Scope has gotten better, partly some personnel changes, but overall, they're just playing better baseball right now. So I actually feel pretty comfortable using the Tigers for today, and I believe their lineup is out. We have Nico Goodrum batting leadoff for them, Jonathan Scope second, Eric Haas, who I like a lot, batting third, Miguel Cabrera batting fourth, Jaime Candelario fifth, and Zach Short sixth, Willie Castro batting seventh. So let's go over to the numbers here for the Tigers versus lefties. I had the Seattle numbers up. This is from the from last night's slate. Forgot to refresh this here, so let's go here and check out the Detroit numbers versus lefties and see what we're working with here. Okay. Sort by plate appearances. Eric Haas is going to be a guy I like a lot. 448 ISO versus lefties. That's a small sample of 60 plate appearances. So ISO stabilizes between, I think it's like 60 to 80 plate appearances. So he's almost there. And he's showing a lot of power. We don't want to trust it yet necessarily because it is still a small sample, but he has the components for a really high ISO because he has a good fly ball rate, a lot of hard contact as well. So Eric Haas is someone I believe in and I think is pretty legit. So let's go over here. I think the Tigers should work pretty well with the Yu Darvish stack or with the Yu Darvish's pitcher. So let's go over to the Tigers. Let's go. Wasn't loaded in yet, but let's go with Haas as the outfielder there. Is Robbie Grossman sitting? He is. That's kind of a letdown, I guess. I'm going to put Haas over in the outfield because I'm going to want Scope. I searched outfield. That's not right. Okay, so let's go here, and then let's get Scope in there. And we can put him at second base because second base is generally terrible. Okay, so we got that to start. Then we're looking at Goodrum, Cabrera, Candelario, Short, and Castro. Short had good numbers in the minors. So I'm going to put him in there at shortstop. $2,200 makes it a lot easier to get to Darvish. And if we do get access to the Blue Jays, then he's definitely going to be someone we're going to want to use in order to give ourselves salary flexibility elsewhere. Let's check out here Candelario versus lefties. 083 ISO, meh. Miguel Cabrera, 088. Nico Goodrum, 081. But I'm pretty sure Goodrum last year had better numbers versus lefties. Let's check out. He just came out the IL and didn't start last night's game. So we don't have a sample on Goodrum since he came back. But let's just check out here hypothetically to see what he did versus lefties last year. A 364 ISO, but that's over 37 plate appearances. Back in 2019, a 155 ISO. Not as great as I thought it was. Maybe it's Candelario who I was thinking of. Let's just check this out quick and see what he's doing, or what he did last year, I should say, last couple years, versus lefties to decide how high we should be on Candelario for today. Wasn't super enthused with Goodrum. I'm not a huge Miguel Cabrera fan these days. 250 last year for Candelario over 44 plate appearances. A little bit of power previously. Some hard contact, not a lot of fly balls. So I think that for Detroit, these are the first 3 guys you want to go with. And then after that, you're kind of seeing what works out best. Castro's numbers have been better recently than they were before. So maybe you go there. But I would say most likely we're probably just going to take the salary savings and go with whoever is going to help us the most in that regard. Looks like that'll wind up being Goodrum. We can put Scope over there to catcher/first base. We can put Goodrum at second base. Oopsies. And we'll do that. And then we'll put Scope over at first base. That puts us at 32.75 left. That's not going to be enough to go full Blue Jays stack, but it's pretty good. So I would say this is probably what I'm looking at for a Blue Jays stack. But if you want to go Miggy, if you want to go Candelario, that's okay too. And I think that they are going to be a desirable value stack for today. If you're looking for like a true salary saver, short works. And if you want a guy with a lot of upside, Eric Haas is your guy. Michael is talking about the pitching change for Baltimore. He's talking about Dylan Tate opening ahead of Aiken. So I hadn't seen confirmation of that yet when I was refreshing. I've been searching Twitter for most of the day for today. Okay. Hyde said he wanted to see how Tate did as an opener. This is from Dan Connolly on Twitter. And then Aiken will follow Tate. So the Orioles will go with Dylan Tate to open, followed by Keegan Aiken, which means we can keep the analysis the same with the Blue Jays. Obviously, we're not going to care too much about Tate being the opener there. It'll be an inning, and that's fine. I think that what it does potentially do is maybe increases the value of the guys lower in the order. You get to face Aiken earlier, but like that could not play out. I wouldn't overthink this. I would say we keep the analysis the same on the Orioles or the Blue Jays for today, despite the fact that Tate will open. As you see here, I still get Aiken as a starter here because he will be the long boy for the Orioles for today. So status quo for the Blue Jays for right now. Jackie thinks he's cursed over on Twitch, but he finally did get in the prize money for a DFS baseball competition. So he is thankful for that. So congratulations, Jackie. Run it back again today. See what happens. Kind of a tough slate given the weather situation, but should be a fun one for sure. Let's talk to DJ on Facebook. Thoughts on Hauser at home? No, he does not get enough strikeouts. There are a lot of good high strikeout pitchers for today. I can't use a guy with so few strikeouts in DFS. FanDuel, you need strikeouts. Hauser does not get those. Hard pass for me. Clint, Cruz or Castellanos? So we got Nelson Cruz facing Tarek Skubal. We have Castellanos facing off with Hauser. And Skubal lets up more impactful contact, a 54% hard hit rate. This is over his past 5 starts with less four-seam fastball movement. I think if you were asking me would I rather stack the Twins or stack the Reds, I would say stack the Reds. But if it's a one-off situation, for me, my mindset for one-offs is I want to identify guys who can erase my mistakes elsewhere. And to get that, I need upside. And Nick Castellanos obviously has it. He's tremendous. He's a really good hitter. But there I'm going to just maximize what I'm going to do with the balls in play. And that to me says I'd rather target Skubal than Hauser. So if I'm looking for a one-off there, give me Nelson Cruz over Nick Castellanos. Again, I think the Reds are an option for today, but for a one-off, I go Cruz over Castellanos there. Let's talk to Diffuse. How well do the Reds grade out as a 4-man stack? So let's pull up Adrian Hauser's numbers here and see what he's been doing. Did I link this right? How is this still Dane Dunning? Dane Dunning hasn't started in like a couple of days. Whatever. I guess it was yesterday. Whatever. Either way. Okay. I'm going to figure out how to link these and make it better. Like if you go over to the URL on the sheet, I don't know why I'm showing you this, but you see Adrian Hauser. I just clicking, for some reason, I'm not clicking it right. Whatever. Anyway, Adrian Hauser. Let's pull up his game logs. Check out the past 5 starts, which is his most relevant sample, with less movement on his pitches. 4.08 ERA. In that time, his strikeout rate is super low at 13.9%. It's not like a situation where I feel like you need to avoid him, obviously, because he doesn't get strikeouts. That means he'll let up base runners. Base runners can lead to impactful innings, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't like the batted ball profile against him all that much. A lot of ground balls, not many fly balls. That reduces the upside. If we go back over here, we see just 2 home runs allowed over his past 5 starts, and that makes sense given his batted ball profile. And to me, I want to maximize extra base hits. I don't get that with Hauser. So if we lop off, like let's say weather breaks bad for the Blue Jays and for the Mets, and I can't use those 2 teams. The Reds would wind up being probably 3rd on my stacking list. I would go with the Tigers 1 and in Cleveland 2, and then Reds would be 3. But if I can avoid them, because I would like to, because I just really don't want to deal with all the ground balls and weak contact he induces. So they're fine. They're probably, 5th overall, 3rd if we get bad weather situation, but would rather avoid them if I can. Let's talk to RJ over on YouTube. Favorite pay down P. So this is a favorite lower salaried pitcher for today. It depends on your definition of pay down. To me, a value pitcher is anyone below $9,000. And the guy there is Tyler Mahle facing the Brewers. Talked about him a bit before, but over his past 7 starts, 3.03 skill interactive ERA, 34% strikeout rate, good bat at ball data, facing the Brewers, who have been a lot better recently. So I am not going at Mahle for the matchup. I think that'd be a flawed process right now because the Brewers are a better offense than they were before. But I'm going here because of Tyler Mahle. Mahle, $8,900. I think that he has similar upside to Yu Darvish, to Max Scherzer, and he gives you a low salary. I would still prefer Yu Darvish and Max Scherzer because their median expectations are better and the odds they reach their ceiling is likely higher. But Mahle, to me, very much a fine consideration. I am okay with him for sure for today and will use him. Like, there are some times where people ask my favorite value pitcher, and I will say I don't want to use them. I do want to use Mahle for today. I will have less exposure to him than I do to Darvish and Scherzer, but I do still want to use Mahle because he's very good, and I think that he has upside, despite the fact the floor may not be all that great. Let's talk to Jackie. If I keep losing at this rate, I won't be able to keep playing too much longer, but I have faith my luck is changing. I have faith in you as well, Jackie. Hopefully we can get you to Yu Darvish or Max Scherzer today. That can turn your luck around and get you back in the win column there. We'll see how things break there. Let's talk to Michael, least likely to hit a home run for today. I like this. This is fun. It's Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil has an aversion to extra base hits that has never been seen in the history of mankind. That's not true, but he's also facing a guy who can let up dingers. So it's not actually Jeff McNeil, but if we're looking at the offenses I'm actually looking to stack for today, he's probably the guy in those lineups least likely to hit a home run. So it's Jeff McNeil. I have no idea why he just no power from this guy. So we'll go Jeff McNeil for Michael's question, which means he's guaranteed to hit a homer. I don't know. We'll see. Michael, who would you prioritize in a Cleveland stack? Okay, let's pull up over here. Where did Patrick Corbin come from? What did I get that from? All right, whatever. Let's refresh here and see if Cleveland's lineup is in for today. And it's not, of course. Anyway, we kind of know who should be in there for Cleveland. So let's pull up their lineup. Let's clear out the Tigers guys here. If I can get to Franmil Reyes, I'd like to get there. He's quite good at baseball. I know this is a breaking statement. Let's check out what he's done since he came back to make sure everything's okay with him there. In that time, couple dingers. Okay. Pretty sure Franmil's okay. We're going to lock him in because why not? Oscar Mercado played decently well in AAA after he got sent down. I think his ISO was about 175 or so. Mercado has shown that he can hit big league pitching in the past. Obviously, that was not the case this year, but $2,100, Harold Ramirez, $2,500. I would say these are the three priorities within this Cleveland team. Ahmed Rosario, very much a consideration here at $2,900. The reason I'm not going to have Jose Ramirez in here is because I am working under the assumption that my goal is to maximize the number of Blue Jays I can get. And that means I have to spend down. The issue we run into with Cleveland in terms of stacking them with Toronto is that they don't mesh up very well. As you see here, a lot of outfielders that I want to use for Cleveland. If we go over to the Blue Jays, a lot of the guys I'm going to want to use there are also outfielders. Teoscar Hernandez, a lot of power. Lourdes Gurriel is reasonably affordable. Randall Grichuk has a lot of power. George Springer has been hitting well. So it's difficult to mesh these two together. And it does mean maybe you won't quite be able to get there with Darvish. Maybe you can get there with Mahle. I think you can get there with Mahle because it means you're using like Bichette, Semien, Vlad, etc. But it's a rough mesh situation with Cleveland. But I would say to me, under the assumption that I want to maximize salary savings, these are the guys I'd want to turn to. But let's say you have all the salary to burn, then Jose Ramirez is number one, followed by Franmil, followed by Ramirez, followed by Rosario, followed by Mercado for today. Cal, producer Cal has Tyler Mahle in there. He is on the Mahle train. He's got Detroit in there with Toronto. I'm into it. I think that might need to be the way that I go if I want to get to Toronto, which stinks because I do want to get to you and Scherzer, but I can accept Maui as a consolation for sure. Jackie says, I won a bet earlier, didn't even know it. It was a Dodgers money line, Muncy 2 hits, and Betts 1 hit, $25 into 127. Hey, so a little same game parlay there, Jackie, or were they individual bets? Either way, congratulations on that. DJ, would you stack Kansas City against Plesac, who's only going 60 pitches for today? Plesac in his rehab stint went, I think, 33 and 43. So yeah, 60 is probably a good number for him. Plesac also is not like, he wasn't super sharp before he went on the IL. A 16% strikeout rate, 4.50 skill interactive ERA. It's a small sample. Let's check out what he did, though, in those 2 rehab starts, because Plesac's a good pitcher. He just hasn't been pitching well so far this year. But let's check out what he did in those rehab starts. Did struggle, got some strikeouts, but the results weren't good. So I think the Royals work, DJ, just because there aren't a lot of great alternatives for tonight. Like, if we take away the Blue Jays and we take away the Mets, there's not a lot left to work with here from a stacking perspective. So I would say the Royals are in play, DJ. I think that I'd put them. So I have Cleveland and Detroit as being like the priorities on the other ones. I would say the Reds are a consideration. I think the Royals are in the same tier as the Reds, but I would put the Reds higher because they should just put a lot of balls in play against Hauser, whereas that's not a guarantee for Kansas City for today. So good question there, DJ. Appreciate you asking that. Diffuse, is Cleveland still seen as a secondary stack if the Blue Jays get rained out? So I actually just talked about that in passing. Good timing there, Diffuse. But I think that to me, the priorities then for stacking would be Detroit and Cleveland. And that does mean that they can mesh up pretty well. You can put Haas at first base, Scope at second base. You can fill your infield there, Goodrum, Candelario, et cetera, et cetera. So the Tigers and Cleveland do mesh pretty well. That works out well. So I would say the priorities for stacking then to be Detroit and Cleveland, followed by the Reds and the Royals as secondary stacks if we can't use the Blue Jays or the Mets. Jackie, which players are most likely to hit a home run? Okay, Dinger calls for today. The Dinger calls this morning were Teoscar Hernandez against Keegan Aiken, obviously against Dylan Tate now, but mostly Keegan Aiken. I'm going to stick with Teoscar under the assumption that game plays. I think it should be good to go. We'll see how that breaks, but I would say we should be good to go there with Teoscar. So I'm going to stick with Teoscar Hernandez as being Dinger call number 1. Dinger call number 2 was Eric Haas facing Jay Happ. Haas, I think, batting 4th or 3rd for today. And yeah, batting 3rd. Target field, not a bad park for some home runs this time of year. 77 degrees, warmer than a lot of places. So I think that I'm going to stick with those two. Teoscar Hernandez, Eric Haas as being my 2 Dinger picks for today. Obviously, Haas is like we're not trying to avoid the chalk there. If we're looking for like a home run challenge type thing, I would say Teoscar Hernandez. I would say you probably want to get Vlad in there, I guess, just because like it's Vlad. But Teoscar is a tremendous pick for a home run challenge. Shouldn't be as popular as Vlad, et cetera, et cetera. And then Jonathan Scope, if you're looking for the 3-man challenge, the home run challenge, I would say Scope grades out pretty well there. Bakwa with a Dr. Disrespect question. Raul or Yaya? I don't know who Raul is. I have not watched enough yet, so working on it, but Dr. Disrespect over everything. Looking forward to having him back on the FanDuel YouTube page here in the very near future. Michael says, I love you, Cal. I agree, Michael. I love Cal too. Cal's the best. Got to make sure we get that one on the screen. So Cal is going, again, if you missed it, Cal's official lineup for today. Mally, Tigers, Blue Jays. Cal is all in on the stacks and the solo shot for this morning. Let's go back to Jackie over on Twitch. I always leave out Vlad on these, and he hits one on those days. Same with Ohtani. Yeah, I try to so for the podcast in the morning, the solo shot, I try to give out like a boring pick and a fun pick. But for the boring pick, I have a hard time being as boring as saying, hey, the guy who leads league in home runs is going to hit a home run tonight. That seems really boring. So I'm trying to not do that, which means that I don't wind up using Ohtani or Vlad as my picks. I should just do that though, because I have a fun one too. I should just go with the fun with the boring calls. If I were to be boring, it's Vlad. Vlad's going to go yard tonight if that game plays. So, but I do think that Teoscar is a tremendous option as well because he is beautiful, just wonderful. Let's talk to Clint on YouTube. Trey Mancini will boom one today as a warm-up for the home run derby. Okay, so Trey Mancini getting that dinger stroke working, facing Alek Manoah. Obviously, some interesting history between Manoah and the Orioles. This is the third time the Orioles have faced Manoah in the past 3 days, it feels like. Manoah does let up fly balls. So, Clint, I think that if you're looking for an overlooked type guy, Mancini's not the worst option. I have a lot of respect for Manoah, especially in terms of getting strikeouts, limiting balls in play. That's why I'm not going to go there. But hey, I think that there are elements in place for you, Clint, that do make that kind of interesting. So good luck with Trey Mancini. I think there is some logic there for sure. Let's talk to Jonathan. Should I get Harper against Alzolay? I didn't talk about the Phillies before. I think that they're an option just because, again, we could get the Blue Jays and the Mets lopped off. And if that does wind up happening, I think the Phillies are a consideration because Alzolay letting up a lot of hard contact since he came off the injury list is over the 3 starts since he came back. 50% hard hit rate, 36% fly ball rate. The reason I can't get super jazzed about the Phillies despite those rough numbers is it's really bad hitting weather in Chicago for today. Winds are in from Central at 11 miles per hour. That is high impact at Wrigley. So that's why I wind up being lower in the situation. As Michael reminded us on YouTube, this is Brandon's Phillies. I need to make sure I address them properly. Brandon's Phillies. They're no longer Philadelphia Phillies. They're Brandon's Phillies. Brandon's Phillies wind up getting pushed down as a result of the weather in Chicago for today, and because Alzolay is actually a pretty good pitcher. I will say, though, if you're looking for drastic platoon splits, you do get those via Alzolay. He's definitely worse versus lefties. So Odubel Herrera, Didi Gregorius, Bryce Harper. I talk about him every time. He never plays, but if Brad Miller starts for once, you could definitely go there. So the Phillies, another team to consider for stacking, despite the fact the weather is really, really bad for today in Chicago from a hitting perspective. DJ says the Cubs finally won. So the Cubs got one back on the Phillies last night, thanks to some terrible defense. Zach Wheeler couldn't quite hold together after the defense let him down. I was sad about that, but he was still better than Chris Paddock. So we got that going for us. So Zach Wheeler still better than Chris Paddock, which is great. Jackie is asking, is it Brandon Phillips Phillies? Brandon Gadula always seems to stack the Phillies. I think it's more the A's. If we were to associate a team with Brandon Gadula, it would be the A's more so than any other team. I know back in the day, Brandon would before he would run his numbers, be like, okay, so why am I stacking the A's today? That would be the thought process. So I think above Phillies, we associate Brandon with the A's. A's were playing earlier on today. They had, were they in the McCullers game? I believe it was the McCullers game. Yeah, Frankie Montas versus McCullers. So, but I think that, Brandon's A's, there we go. Just in case you ever forget, Brandon's A's facing McCullers today. I had some Astros stacks because Montas is really struggling on the road, and then he had 15 strikeouts. That might be an exaggeration. It might not. I didn't get to see the end of the game, but either way. Okay, so RJ says, you like Winker for a late dinger? Yeah, he's facing, again, it's a tough situation because Hauser doesn't let up a lot of fly balls and hard contact, but Jesse Winker's really good. So that's not the worst situation in the world. Finally, DJ asking for home run calls. Let me solidify the home run calls for today because I did bounce around a bit. If we're going 3 for the home run challenge, my 3 picks, we want to do chalk to get the easy home runs. We'll go Vlad. That's 1. Teoscar Hernandez, because it's not as chalky, but it's still good. So we'll go with Teoscar 2. And then I'll go Jonathan Scope. Actually, no. I'm going to go Eric Haas. We had him this morning in the solo shot. We're going to stick with it. Ride or die with Eric Haas for tonight. That is all that we have here for the FanDuel Live Q&A for today. But we are back once again tomorrow. If you want to check out the sheet for tomorrow, a lot of starters not known yet. But hey, in case you want to head start in your research, there is that. We'll see who winds up starting for those teams. I don't really know yet, but it seems like We're probably talking about most likely Charlie Morton, Kenta Maeda, maybe Zach Thompson. We'll see how things go for that. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter page. And come back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll talk to you more about MLB DFS then. Be like Michael. Say, I love you, Cal. Say, thanks, Cal. Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Live Q&A.